Sutanam Mahavira Bikram Bajarangi Kumati Nivara Sumati Kesangi Kanch Radhe 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 Sham Govind. Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavak Gyanagan Yasu Hridayaga Sahiram Sarachabha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Ranucharan Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Pandaranam Tisham Ragupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanryotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman Ki Jai. Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Shri Guru Charan Saroja Raja Ijamana Makur Sudhar Parana Raghubara Vimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachar बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमेराम भवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु क्लेश विकार भजलो जी हनुमान भजलो जी हनुमान भजलो जी हनुमान भजलो जी हनुमान जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत तुलित बलधाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केश हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कंधे मूज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातु राम काज करिबे को आतु प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरिसिया हिंदी खावा निकट रूप धरि लंक चरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे आय सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि समभाई ससबदन तुमरो जस गाओ अस कहि श्रीपति कंद लगाओ सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहित ईसा कुबेर दिगपाल जहांते कभी कोविद कैसा के कहांते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव कीना राम मिलाय राजपद दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्त्र जोजन परमाणु लील्योताहि मधुर पल्लजान प्रभु मुद्रिका मिलि मुख माहि जलधि लंघि गए अक्षर जनाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के चेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे थे राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे पोतनाज्ञा बिनु पैजारे सब सुख लाहे तुम्हारी शरणा तुम्हारा चक काबू को दरना आपन तेज समारो आपे तीनों लोक हंगते गांबे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं नावे महावीर जप नाम सुनावे नसेरो हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीर संकट थे हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, इनके काज सकल तुम साज। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन पल पावे। चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा, हे परसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम्हारा कवाड़े, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास, सदा रहो रघुपति के दास। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरे बात कहाई। और देवता चेतन धरई, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करौ गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पात कर कोई, छूट ही बन्नी महासुख होय। जो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा, होया सिद्धि साकी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय मंदिरा। पवन तनय संकट हरण, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र पद जय शरणम। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल मंगल मूल निकंदन। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल मंगल मूल निकंदन। श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम। श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम। सीताराम 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 सीताराम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। सीताराम 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 सीताराम। सीताराम 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 सीताराम। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम।
So welcome everyone to this morning's seminar and meditation and the felt sense of the archetypical realms. Also like to welcome our friends on the internet. So if you and I are in our mind alone, it's not easy to experience the archetypical dimension. We can think about them, we can read about them, we can know all about them, that dimension, but we won't experience it. Any place you'd like, you can sit down. Welcome. Welcome to our little seminar, meditation, the felt sense of the archetypical realm. And I was saying, if we're in our mind alone, which really actually helps get you here, where to drive, turn, all that kind of stuff, addresses, up the steps, down the steps. Really good to have one. Really good. But being in mind alone will not give you access to this dimension of your own experience. This dimension of your own experience which manifests your experience, ultimately. So one way or another, and there's no one way, thank God for that, no one way, to each is their own. You have to learn, discover, find, fall into, wander into this aspect of yourself that is a bit, just a tiny bit, beyond your mind. And when you're there, the unseen becomes seen or felt. The invisible becomes visible. So many metaphors for this dimension. We like the word awareness here. It can cover a lot of ground. It can be multidimensional. Infinite horizons. Vast. So with that little background, let's suspend our mind just a teeny bit. And as you and I can suspend our mind just a bit, it frees this awareness to become aware of its own self. It brings awareness into the foreground, and our mind is just a bit in the background. Often our mind is so much in the foreground that we're so organized by our mind alone that this vast background of awareness, which has different dimensions, is simply foreclosed. It really is the great primordial dissociation from this background, foreclosed often, forgotten, left behind, not worth it, who cares? So as we suspend our mind, we bring our awareness down. It's like bringing it down into our heart, into our body. We become aware of our awareness. We shift ought to be located in mind alone, or thought alone, or sensation alone, or favorite affect alone, memory, sensation, fantasy. And we find that awareness. Space, open space, empty space, openness, empty openness. Energy. There's an energy to it. Chi, Shakti, pulsation, vibration, aliveness, intensity. And at the same time, there's stillness. Awareness has this mysterious mixture of both stillness and movement, emptiness and aliveness. And perhaps you're feeling it now. One way of remaining in this emptiness is integrating everything and anything. Like even the sounds right now. Whatever you hear, you bring it into your awareness. Even whatever you feel, you bring it into your awareness. This is not the realm of good thoughts alone. And the more you bring everything and anything into this awareness, paradoxically, it becomes stronger, broader, has more depth and intensity. Nothing is foreclosed. Now that we're a bit in this awareness, this field is a field. It opens and closes. It can be expanded, contract. With that understanding, let's extend this awareness through our body. We want to embody awareness. It's actually not an altered state. It's the natural state. So we'll extend this awareness, this openness, this spaciousness, this energy, this light, this knowingness, non-conceptual knowingness. We'll extend it through our body, all the way down to the lower centers. Wonderfully, awareness awakens awareness. The energy awakens its own self. And then we extend it up through the chest, heart, palate of the mouth, back of the eyes, top of the head. Self-arising awareness. Self-arising. Embodiment in the nowness. Now, none of this is perfect. It's always a work in progress, unfolding through time, through circumstance, through events. It's always fresh. So having established ourselves somewhat in this meditative awareness, we can bring our thoughts down a bit more. Bring them down. Bring the energy of the mind down into your heart. We're opening the door. So having established ourselves in this awareness of awareness, we can go further. We can extend ourselves to the immediacy of the situation. Or it says in the Yeshe Lama, an ancient Dzogchen text on awareness, the inner yin meets the outer yin. The inner field meets the outer field. Then non-duality can be felt. So let's do that. Well, Yang Tang Rinpoche, as one of the great Dzogchen masters, would say this: the great compassion is not internalizing everyone's pain. The great compassion is the capacity, the power of extending this awareness into everyone and everything, into the present of the person, into their past, and into their future. That is the great compassion. There's a light extending to the light. With that understanding, we'll do that now. We'll extend this awareness into the immediacy of this situation, this little room, this morning, 10:15, us. We'll extend. You don't know how to do it. You don't have to know how to do it. It's like raising a finger. I don't know how I do that. I just do it through practice, through desire. Through desire. So let's extend to each other. Inside to inside. Directly. Unmediated. In its heart, awareness is non-local. Becomes local. Becomes singularity. But ultimately, it is non-local. Vast. But let's extend to each other. Paradoxically, the more I extend to you, the more this energy comes to me. Don't run dry. The more you give, the more you get. It's a good deal. Then you begin to feel the field of awareness. You feel it around you and you, and then you feel it around you. Then you start to have this sense of entering awareness. This sphere, S-P-H-E-R-E. Can you feel that? Let's extend again. Yogis tell us a lot about this awareness. They say it's the great protection, and that it metabolizes experience. Even psychologists know that more and more. The power of awareness metabolizes experience. It dissolves it. It dissolves everything and anything. It's like a digestion, like having a really good one. It's like a fire. It's a fire. Metabolizing experience. Metabolizing memories. Metabolizing painfulness. Dissolving. Openness. More space. More light. Very simple. So having extended to each other, since this awareness has many dimensions to it, let's extend to the generational field. Because you and I are expressions of the generational field, the ancestors, the mothers and the fathers, and the mothers and the fathers, and the friends, history. So with that understanding, let's extend to the generational field, the ancestors. We'll do that now. It is the act of the great compassion. The light, extending to the light. All these extensions, you'll feel the field becoming bigger. Bigger's better. Now, having extended to that dimension of our own awareness, let's extend to the dimension of the teachers, of the gurus, of the yogis, or anyone actually who we know, who they embody that awareness so much that the invisible becomes visible. That felt sense arises in us, huh? Just like it arises in us right now as we feel this awareness. When we feel a person who embodies that felt sense opens. Can you feel that? That felt sense of awareness, of the space, of the energy, of the resonance, of the attunement. Bodhidharma says this, 6th century, long ago. Beyond words and letters is a transmission. It doesn't belong to any tradition. No one owns it. It's the very nature of human awareness. And that is the Buddha. So we'll extend to the different yogis. And since you're in this little spot, this place right now, we're going to extend to the yogis who are part of this place. It's all very personal, this lineage stuff. Actually, it can't really be institutionalized. It's like one person to another person, to another person, to another person. Very direct. The great compassion. So I'll extend to Swami Muktananda Brahmahansa, our root teacher. I'll extend to him. Extension takes us into non-duality. Primordial awareness is non-dual. But as we go through appearance, through duality, non-duality arises. Through duality, non-duality. And within non-duality, duality. They sort of go together. Oneness and difference, appearances, and spaciousness. So we extend to Swami Muktananda this morning. And behind him is his teacher, Bhagavan Nityananda. And if we're in awareness, we can do this. Resonance. Don't extend to Lama Wandor, Tibetan lineage. And to Namke Norpo. Kunzan Lingpa visited here. And his son Rinchen Dorje, who taught us so many Dakini practices, goddess, archetypes. And then we'll extend to Lama Torchen, who we love a lot, who died recently. And then behind him is his teacher, Tinley Norbo. All these are evocativeness. The practice of Dzogchen is invocation. It's not like shamanism. You invoke these qualities. You invoke these dimensions. You invoke awareness to the different forms. You invoke the archetypes. You bring them forth within yourself. You're not like praying to something outside there begging, can you lend me $1? Maybe 2? 3. You're invoking that dimension within your own self, within your own being, since it's there implicitly, without sense. Then we'll extend behind Timli Norbo is Dorje Rinpoche, great Dzogchen master of this time, this period, this century. Invoke his presence. And then behind him is Dorje Lingpa. Presence. The presence of awareness is presence itself. One presence in everything. Then we'll invoke Lama Norla. And behind him is his teacher, Kala Rinpoche. I'll invoke the Karmapa. I'll invoke Pema Rinpoche. Then we'll invoke Amachi, the great Shakti Guru, who transmits through the embrace. Now, so we're in awareness now, this sea of chi, the energy, pulsation, vibration, openness, aliveness, Shakti. Then we come to the next level, the next dimension. That's our topic. At last. The archetypical realm. And we'll be exploring this archetypal realm today in light of the planets, the cosmological energies that manifest, influence us, jerk us around at times. And then we'll explore the archetypical energies that we name as the deities, the gods, goddesses, dakinis. So we'll do that now. Begin to do that. We'll extend to that dimension as the dakini, the goddess. The human mind tends to personify everything. Our pets, my car, parts of my body. We personify everything, don't we? So we personify these primordial energies. It really works. So I'll extend the dakini this morning. The Divine Mother will invoke that her, that protection. So now we're established in meditation. But meditation is not simply having your eyes closed. It's being in awareness of awareness. And you want to live there and go through your life that way. Because liberation then happens for us. So the very circumstances of our life is the source of liberation. It's not leaving the circumstances of your life, sitting in a dark hole someplace, being fed. It's quite the opposite. Through the power of awareness, being in awareness, meeting the unfolding of the circumstances of our life, natural liberation takes place. So I'm going to talk a bit, and we're remaining in awareness. Then Pete will talk the same topic from Sufism, so happy about, and I'm going to talk about the topic in Vajrayana Buddhism. But we're going to stay in awareness. It's better to be in awareness and hear my voice sort of in the background. And if you think too much about this, you will leave awareness and being your mind alone. And you'll get some facts. But the experience is within awareness. The felt sense of awareness. Awareness actually is a felt sense. You can feel awareness. You can feel when you're in awareness. And you can articulate the experience of everything and anything through awareness. Do you feel the felt sense in your body right now? Say yes if you do. That is where you want to live. From the nothingness of awareness arises this sense. And we don't know with our mind. We can always impose our mind on everything and anything and pretend we know it all. We make judgments. Dakinis laugh. But you stay with the felt sense. And it arises from the felt sense. Experience, then words, but also apparitions. Apparitions arise from the felt sense. Visions arise from the felt sense. That's where you want to be. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, the various Dakini practices, goddess practices, they're stories, they're myths. They're stories and myths that lead you and I into the experience of the Dakini, the goddess, the feminine. Can you feel it? They invoke experientially what they signify, what they indicate. Ultimately, these myths, these stories, are means to bring forth our own awareness in depth and breadth and power. They bring forth the various dimensions of this awareness, and which for the Vajrayana Buddhists is ultimately cosmological, not simply psychological. Cosmological. The anima mystic, as Jung would call it. The anima, the psyche, is essentially mystical, oneness, non-duality. Vast, beyond our mind, alone. In Dzogchen, one becomes aware of awareness. And so again, as we went through, we learned to suspend our mind and turn the gaze of awareness inwards to the gaze itself. You gaze into the gaze within yourself, within others, within animals, everything. In doing so, slowly but surely, you discover that you're not in your mind or in your thoughts or memory, but you begin to get the sense of living in awareness itself, this place of awareness. So first you hold it, then you enter it, then it's in front of you, around you, and then you become awareness. Ahama. I'm becoming what I am. This vast field, multidimensional, infinite in its horizons. Or as Dujam Rinpoche, the great Dzogchen master, would write, although hundreds of thousands of explanations are given, there's only one thing to be understood. Know the one thing that liberates everything, awareness itself, your true nature, your own nature. So the Dakini is both a metaphor. For instance, there's Mary. Here we consider Mary the Dakini, a symbol of the Dakini. Among Yeshitogo, Drobandagmo, and all the traditions, she's there. So the Dakini is both the metaphor and the reality of the different dimensions of this multidimensional awareness that you and I are, this field. Ultimately, awareness is gnosis, luminous knowingness, non-conceptual, direct perception, freed from the mediation of mind alone. This knowingness knows what? What does it know? Others' minds and their oddities? Not really. It can, but this gnosis, this knowingness knows knowingness first in one's own body, and then in the bodies of the others. Our bodies are the medium of the field. That's why being in the body is really central to this. Natural. And then in the physical world itself, luminous knowingness knows luminous knowingness, embodied in the various dimensions of our cosmology. Human beings, that's you and I, are mind and body, yet we're also this primordial, pervasive awareness in mind, in body, in time. Timeless awareness in time. Timeless awareness in time. The mind is masculine, and the mind is skillful means. It's a doer. Awareness is gnosis. Awareness is feminine. Awareness is direct perception. Awareness is the anima. The dakini is knowingness itself. This dakini is awareness, yours and mine. So our very self, our very awareness is the dakini. And this awareness is not the psychological mind, but cosmological consciousness, which is beyond the mind, yet infuses the mind. There are 3 dimensions of awareness, called the kayas in Dzogchen. Namanakaya is the manifestations of forms. I'm looking at you right now, and I see your forms. Here it's also the room. It's cars, earth, forms, thoughts, sensations, memories, people, faces, human face. Namanakaya, dimension of awareness, can be mediated through the body and the mind, and it's concealed within the mind and concealed within our bodies. Yet it radiates through, beyond the body, as Shakti and energy and light. It's the radiance of the human face, the radiance of the energy that you might be feeling right now. Underlying within this Namanakaya, that's you and I sitting here right now, is the Sambhogakaya dimension. That's the archetypical dimension, or archetypal. Sambhogakaya is the manifesting of the light, the energy, the vortexual configurations. Vortexual configurations that manifest not only my experience right now, but the circumstances that I am in. Sambhogakaya is the archetypal. And it's the powers, the qualities of the primordial cosmological consciousness itself, the Shaktis, the energies, ultimately manifesting as Namanakaya, everything and anything. Then, finally, there is one more dimension, and it's unmanifest. There's no form. It's no thingness. Not no thingness like an empty head, or an empty mouth, or an empty shoe, or an empty house. It is potentiality itself. It is pure potentiality. The vast spaciousness of consciousness, of awareness. No thingness that creates everything and anything. It's virtuality, pure creativity, out of which everything arises and dissolves. That's why Dharmakaya is ultimately creativity and destruction as oneness. It creates you and dissolves you. It creates us and dissolves us. The eternal cycle, and then arising again. In this understanding, everything is Vajrakamara, unborn, undying, manifest, and then in time, then dissolves back into timelessness, and then manifest again. The manifested and the manifesting are oneness, total oneness. You are the manifested and the manifesting at the same moment. As you and I know, these dimensions are now described in contemporary physics. At the most primordial and unmanifest, the Dakini is known in Dzogchen as the Great Mother, often sometimes called the Dark Mother, pure, luminous darkness, and the creative potential out of which everything arises and everything dissolves into. She goes by many, many names, The Great Sovereign Goddess, the All-Creating One, Vajravahare, Tromanagmo, Kodakale. Then she also manifests as the Sambhogakai dimension of light and energy. She has many names in this dimension. She's the red Kurakule, which represents this energy, this cosmological resonance, this magneticness, energy and light. The resonance of oneness, the magic energy, the magnetic energy that can be extended, creating oneness and healing, and brings experience and people into us. She's the white Tara, who we'll focus on a bit today, as the divinity of long life and the vital energy that manifests both in the Sambhogakaya, and then through the Sambhogakaya this energy comes into the Manakaya dimension and vitalizes us. It helps invoke health, long life, healing. The great healers, some great healers operate on the Namanakaya level, but many of the great healers invoke the archetypical dimension to come through the Namanakaya. But they have to be there. It's not being, this whole thing is you have to be in that dimension to be able to work with that dimension wherever we're at. Do you understand that? She's also in the Manakaya dimension. She's actually human beings who embody spaciousness and compassion, light and energy. I think some are here this morning. She embodies gnosis, this direct gnosis. She embodies the guru function as a self-manifestation of light. And if you are such a person, you're very fortunate. Or if you know such a person, you're also very fortunate. She's also the spiritual companion, whether in persons or pets, both within men and women. She's really not gender specific. She's both the metaphor and the actuality. A spiritual companionship, relational oneness, non-duality in her life. She's the sublime relationship between human beings. Wherever that relationship is so sublime between human beings, that is the Dakini. Embracing each other, not simply psychologically, not simply physically, but embracing awareness within awareness, inside to inside directly. The oneness of awareness, relational oneness, the oneness of the world, the oneness between the mother and the child. She's totally natural, a metaphor of naturalness. She's not out there, way out there. So I'm going to read a little bit right now. And this is to the white Tara. We have a tanka of her here. The mother as life force. Still in meditation? Still there? Say yes if you are. Still there? Drop back in again. So many words can take us out, eh? So let's focus back in again. Find that felt sense. So this is the little story. I embrace the original state of bliss and spaciousness. the goddess of the long life. Let's do that now. You don't need a picture in your mind, but the felt sense, that is key. I recognize this face, this original state, this place, this sense, as my own face. So now you are becoming her explicitly. So as to perfect samsara nirvana, the essence of the 3 dimensions of enlightened presence, 3 dimensions of awareness, I generate, that means I bring forth, I invoke the attitude of enlightenment, this inherent and innate liberation that I've been from the very beginning, this beginning, that you want to bring forth, that attitude. You don't believe it. You're actually daringly, boldly invoking this state of awareness, these attitudes. It's like claiming them. The essence of all phenomena, that means all appearance, is beyond affirmation or denial, beyond coming and going. That means you're penetrating the essence of everything. Because it all appears and disappears. It comes and goes. This seminar will be over soon. Appears and disappears, but within it. And whatever the event is, the attunement to awareness within ourself, to the dakini, within the phenomena. I embrace this ultimate essence. And I offer the radiance. It's like I'm making this gesture, this offering of the radiance of this ultimate reality. So I leap into the vast and innate freedom that is free of obscurations. I mean, I have the sense of this dimension. It's not hidden, obscured for me. And I rejoice in timeless awareness and the completeness of all phenomena. Let's do that for a moment. I embrace the dissolving of all phenomena beyond language and letters and concepts. Like dissolving. Like going beyond. Going beyond. And I remain here at the quintessence of primordial deathlessness. Timeless awareness is deathlessness. Can you reach timeless awareness? Right now. You'll find it. Go to the felt sense. The felt sense is where timeless awareness manifests in time. It's that close to us as human beings. The center of this unborn expanse, of this primordial awareness spaciousness, is ceaseless. And the self-arising radiance of utter perfection and luminosity arises. Yet nonetheless, I experience all the forms of sensory enjoyment around me and through me. This means I'm not dissociating primordial awareness from embodiment, from the flesh, from life. And then we go a step deeper into the apparitional realm. I experience this white lotus and moon-like luminosity. So it's like soft moonlight. And I experience this luminous disk of light, like swirls. And there is this white syllable, Tom. Tom is the seed syllable, Tom. Aham is another one. Bam is another one. And from within the seed syllable, this vibration, I experience the streaming forth of radiant rays of light. I'm experiencing the white Tara, the mother of the victorious ones, the life bestowing goddess appears to me. She's crystalline light. She's completely peaceful. There's a stillness, absolute stillness. And she gazes into me. I feel the radiance arising. Sublime beneficence. I gaze into her and she's beautiful. She has silken robes. And she's seated with her legs crossed in the Vajra posture. And she holds a flower, Upala flower. There's a flower of healing between her thumbs and the four fingers of both hands. And she makes this gesture towards me, this empowering gesture of protection, and invokes the progression, the unfolding of the wheel of Dharma, the unfolding of the wheel of karma. That karma and Dharma are in union, liberation through karma, for the events of my life, just as I am. And then there are luminous rays of light, and the Mahasukha, the bliss that overcomes suffering, the bliss of appearance and emptiness, the bliss of spaciousness and appearance, indivisible. And the light streams in all directions, pulsates. And I begin to experience that all appearance is divinity. And I gaze into her, and she's surrounded by the Dakinis in all the directions, hundreds, luminous, like vortexes. And then they're gathering up, I sense this, the vital essence of the natural qualities of the 5 elements: fire, earth, water, air, space. So these elements, these energies being gathered, and then they transmit the vital essence as the light waves pervade space and myself and my surroundings. And so this wisdom deity, this wisdom archetype, and myself become inseparable. Nando. And the secret syllable continues to manifest from the realm of the unborn dimension. The mantra arises, Tam, Aham. And the goddess, as primordial wisdom, gnosis, this bliss, spaciousness, I experience as the mother of all life, everything, crocodiles, fish, children, babies, monsters. Mother Tara, invoke, please establish yourself here within me. I'm invoking her within myself, that dimension, and protect this field that I am, both as the container and the content. The mantra, Om Tara Aratara Om Tara Tara Tu Tara Soham. At this moment, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana I experience as pervaded by space, energy and light, translucidity. And beyond the duality of the offering and the act of offering, I offer this to the beingness of all beings. Appearance and spaciousness, the luminous body. The unborn sound and spaciousness, the luminous body of speech. Knowingness as bliss and spaciousness, the luminous enlightened mind. Then I give praise to the mandala, which is the field, this vast field. In the center of the mandala is Tara's heart. And this syllable, Tam, luminous, like molten diamond luminosity. And the radiance gathers up the vital essence of all the elements again, and dissolving into the mantra of the mala in my heart essence. And so this bodhicitta, the great compassion of deathlessness flows, deathless awareness, deathless light, immortality, filling all the channels of the luminous body. And thus my subtle body is purified karmically, energetically, pulsates. The negations leave my body through the pores and passes out into the mouth of the Lord of Death, who relishes it. And then he dissolves into the unborn ultimate space of absoluteness. And thereby, by this means of primordial awareness, of this bliss of spaciousness and light, I begin to attain mastery over deathlessness by becoming deathlessness, timeless awareness itself. and my fear of death dissolves. Om Tara Tara Tuam Soda. Mother Tara, bless me with these cities of the long life and profound understanding. Then the text says, this little story says, if you practice these essential points, and it's an empowerment, and sometimes feeling the Vajra breath, the Vas breath, the breathless breath, you'll feel that your breath simply stops. And you'll feel the energy within the breath, or the breath within the breathlessness. You'll be able to experience the sky as your nourishment. And you unify knowingness and skillful means. They become one. And then you will attain mastery of the life force as a master of pure awareness in your lifetime. Then, having arisen out of primordial space into primordial space of my own awareness, she arose within me, that apparition, that dimension of Sambhogakaya. Then she dissolves back like everything and anything. And just as I feel her absence, then out of the great compassion, she again arises from the state of the unborn. And by doing this practice, you will come to be endowed with the life force of pure awareness through the power of invocation. And we'll sit quietly for a few moments. Then in this pause, allow yourself, just to your own self, to articulate, but not from your mind. That's where I do my taxes from. But not from your mind, but from this awareness state that you're in. Allow the words to arise in you about what you're experiencing now. So you pause your mind and you articulate from within your body. You allow the words. You have the pause of your mind. Because our minds map everything artificially. You pause your mind, and then you allow yourself to articulate what you experienced. Perhaps nothing, but allow it to arise spontaneously from within your body. So you go down towards the navel. Because there's different levels of speech. Out of space, the pulsation arises as a word, and then it becomes like a word, but it has no signification to it. You start to know it. Yeah. And then it becomes, in time, a signifier to a signified. That's quite incidental. That last part of the actual signification is not the power of the radiance of the archetypal realm. Now in a few moments we're going to take a little break for about 15 minutes. You're also welcome to come back and sit and meditate. And then we're going to approach the same topic through the realm, through the language of the Sufis, which is so great. And we'll approach it also through the language of the planets. It's exactly the same phenomena. With that, you can leave whenever you want. There might be some to drink upstairs, but try and maintain yourself in awareness. So, this is not that you don't have a good time today, but let yourself maintain the awareness state upstairs. Because this is a cumulative thing. Awareness is a cumulative drama like everything. If you can stay in awareness, when you come back, you will still be in awareness, and then we can go further and deeper. And we'll put that chant back on, yeah. We'll put number 5 on. Thanks.
Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavak Jnana Ghan Yasu Hridayaga Asahiram Sarachabadha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Dhanujaran Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanrayotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman Ki Jai. Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavaka Gyanagan Asuhradayaga Asahiram Sarachabadha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Anujaran Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjana Nandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanrayotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman Ki Jai. Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavaka Gyanagan Asuhradayaga Asahiram Sarachabadha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Anujaran Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanrayotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman Ki Jai Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavaka Gyanagan Yasu Hridayaga Asahiram Sarachabadha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Anujaran Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vadajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanrayotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam prapadye Shri Ramadutam
Blackberry
Sharanam
juice is so good.
prapadye
Mix me up.
Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman ki
No, it's
jai.
too cold. I like it. So we hope our friends on the internet are having a great time. We'll be sitting in bed right now, having brunch. The only thing I do ask you, if you wouldn't mind letting me know, since we're coming, how the picture is, the sound, and if you're feeling the field. That really would be good to know. Was it good? Great, great.
Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavaka Gyanakan Yasu Hridayaga Sahiram Sarachaba Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Ranucharan Krishan Yani Nam Graganya Sekalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Ragupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namam
Yeah, I mean, I think that
If you want, how you want to shape it? Again,
Goshpadi Kritavarisham
play with it.
if you want to do that at the end, do it.
Mashaki Kritarakshasam
How you want to do
I mean, I think
Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam
kind of go through it one by one.
Anjana Nandanam Viram
I don't know.
Janaki Shokanashanam
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutulya Vegam Jitendriyam
It's alright, take your time. Let people-
Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanryotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman ki
Is that everybody? That is, okay, great. All right. So now I'm going to talk basically about the same thing, but from a different perspective. In as Rudy was saying, in the Dzogchen Buddhist understanding, awareness is multidimensional. The different kayas, the nirmanic kaya of phenomena, forms, the physical matter in life, and the Sambhoga kaya, the intermediate field of manifestation, Dharmakaya, the field of unmitigated space and emptiness, unmanifested being. And this intermediate experience, the Sambhogakaya, this is the archetypal field. This is our topic today, really. And one way to describe this, to start, and what we want to do today really is we want to end with a meditation on the planetary archetypes and trying to invoke them ourselves, try to get some experience as a group of these basic planetary archetypes, but we need to kind of find a way into that. So one way to start that is to describe this archetypal experience through the French phenomenologist Henry Corbin and his reading of Islamic mysticism, Sufi Ibn Arabi. So in this reading, the archetypal realm is named the Alam al-Mathal, the real intermediate world of subsistent images. So in the Sufism of Ibn Arabi, experience of this realm is essentially the creative act, the artistic act, the mystic act, and that's why I want to bring him up, is because this archetypal field is, is the realm of the creative imagination. This is the most fundamental definition here, and it's a very good contemporary entry point. Corbin says, this is what's been left to the poets in modernity. This is where that entry arises. Creative imagination is the central conduit and entry point to all spiritual experience and phenomena. So in the Sufi mysticism, the archetypal field is invoked by a very complex angelology, with each angelic figure a manifestation of this direct imagination. Awareness manifesting into form, the transitional space of the archetypal field. Corbin says, this is a quote, "Here we shall not be dealing with imagination in the usual sense of the word, neither with fantasy, profane or otherwise, nor with the organ which produces imaginings identified with the unreal. Rather, we speak of a universe endowed with a perfectly objective existence and perceived precisely through the imagination." So imagination is this creative act. It's a cutting through. It's essentially a Gnostic break from any limited, concrete, and rational understanding. And there's a term, the ta'wil, essential symbolic understanding. Entering the ta'wil is to leave the Sharia, the law, the literalist religion, to leave the literal meaning behind. It's addressed to the hidden meaning, the batin instead of the zahir. It's the transmutation of everything visible into symbols, the only means of signifying what is to be signified. So when he's talking about ta'wil, we're talking about self-mastery, self-awareness, and direct participation. One aspect of Ibn Arabi, one aspect of Henry Corbin's reading of all this, is this very profound nature of the participation. So Islam means submission to the will of Allah. But the mysticism of Ibn Arabi, there's no submission. There can be no clergy, no external master or guru. There can be no belief in something or someone else, no intermediary. So I think that's important today. What Corbin calls Ibn Arabi's theophanic prayer, the way he prays, it's a prayer of mutual knowing, a direct participatory act. That's the creative act, because it gives subjectivity to the cosmos itself through the creative imagination. It's an integration of the multidimensional structure of our experience, not unlike the Dzogchen interpretation of the Kayas. Concurrent multidimensionality. The experience dependent on the cultivation of one's own awareness. So here we're saying, you don't enter the archetypal realm in the sense that you leave somewhere else behind. Or you don't enter the archetypal realm through the doorway of... You only enter the archetypal realm through the doorway of your own perception. One integrates the intermediate space of the archetypal field into their own awareness. Existence in the everyday world of appearances and phenomena never ceases, and in fact reflects that archetypal mirror. Furthermore, the experience of the archetypal field is itself a doorway into the Dharmakaya, the realm of pure, unmitigated awareness, emptiness itself. So you don't leave to go to the Dharmakaya. Rather, the Dharmakaya exists concurrently and manifests through the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. And this multidimensional integration is what we're really contemplating here today. So to talk about that integration, we want to talk about cosmology, these mythic symbols of cosmology, the planets themselves, because I think they have an enormous resonance. And so we have to look at that from a astrological frame at first. Difficulty with astrology is it's so antithetical to how we think today. You know, it's very contradictory to that rational, scientific, literal, concrete mind. And the other difficulty is that astrology itself, many astrologers, they're very trapped in that frame too. You know, and they're very rational, scientific. This is a science. Astrology is a science. And it's really not. You know, or that. And I think it relates very much in terms of talking about Corbin and Ibn Arabi to this idea of a literalist religion, this objective idea of a religion, the Sharia. You know, it's the same kind of stuck mindset. It results in astrologically results in superstition, fortune telling, this kind of thing. But this shifts with our own understanding. So I want to talk about the California professor Richard Tarnas. For Tarnas, a new approach to cosmology, our basic understanding of the structures of our universe arises through this investigation of the archetypal level of experience. So Tarnas sees all of human history as a drive toward differentiation between ourselves and the world. He writes of a profound disorientation and groundlessness to our present state, a crisis of the modern self existing in what he describes as a disenchanted universe. He introduces two contradictory narratives that one can trace throughout the history of human consciousness. And he calls one the myth of progress and the other the myth of the fall. I'm going to tell you briefly about both. So the myth of progress is this Promethean impulse. In the myth of progress, everything is a long, heroic journey from a primitive world of ignorance, suffering, limitation, to a brighter modern world of knowledge, freedom, and well-being. All this is made possible by human reason, the development of an enlightened modern mind, the individual scientific reasoning. It's a heroic story of self-mastery, of revolution, of individual freedom. Now, in the opposite trajectory is the myth of the fall, and sees the same evolution of human consciousness as really predominantly problematic, even tragic story of humanity's fall and separation from an original state of oneness. There's no more oneness with nature, no more spirituality with the world. So in this narrative, you know, we see ourselves as desacralizing the world. The evolution of human individuality and reason have left us with, you know, alienated, profound alienation. The hero's journey is his tragedy. So what he gets out with these two narratives is that a new investigation of cosmology, our basic understanding of the structures of our world, all this can arise through a new look at the archetypal level of experience. And that investigation then is like he calls it a psychological reconciliation between these two myths of progress, myth of the fall. And it's a new trajectory of synthesis that arises through that. So what he talks about is basically the astrological implications of such a project, a new understanding of the interaction between psyche and the planets, the universe itself. And so in this new worldview, we experience that freedom and individualism of human progress, and then also that inner subjectivity inherent in the fall, or before the fall. So he goes on to describe this archetypal astrological perspective, one he develops with this the transpersonal psychotherapist Stanislav Grof, and he throws out much of what's considered astrological knowledge. And we go back to the basic resonances of the planets themselves, and that's the same thing that I do. Is you throw out all the pseudoscientific jargon, all the different confusing combinations, and you go back to these basic archetypal resonances. And that's what we're going to do shortly. You know, in this understanding, all this correlation between planet and psyche is never really concretely predictive. You can't really say, well, how's it going to go for me next, year or next week? Is this going to be good or bad? It doesn't really matter. Instead, we can talk about the archetypal implications of the events, of the circumstances. And sometimes you end up with a concrete prediction by luck but by, it doesn't really matter. Instead, what really matters is that we're trying to invoke these basic doorways into the archetypal realm of experience. So, before we start that, Tarnas writes this earlier letter. He says, quote, although the evidence for planetary correlation sharply contradicted the mainstream Newtonian Cartesian scientific paradigm, we notice many parallels with the concepts coming from new paradigm sciences. Quantum physics, systems theory, morphogenetic fields, the implicate order, the holonomic universe. Suddenly, from this most improbable and scorned source, we had a method of illuminating both the archetypal character and the timing of individual experiences, including non-ordinary states of consciousness. To be able to better understand the sudden onset of a psychological crisis or spiritual breakthrough, to gain insight into our certain cyclical activations of particular complexes in an individual's inner world, astrology seemed to represent a kind of Rosetta Stone for understanding the human psyche. So that research is basically what we're doing with meditation today. This is what we're going to go through, and I'm going to talk briefly about each planet. I'm going to talk about the sun, the moon, Jupiter, so on. And what I say is almost secondary to your own experience of this idea. Whether sometimes what I say will resonate, sometimes it won't. But hopefully we begin to pick up this basic resonance as a felt sense, as Rudy was saying earlier. It's useful to try to contemplate these planets as a creative act, as an atmosphere and underlying structures of our own consciousness, as that which arises in the intermediate state, the transitional space, in the Alam al-Mathal, the realm of the creative imagination. And we're looking to find that awareness arising in our bodies, this invocation of the different planets. Sometimes not even languaged. We want to look in terms of our personal history, focus on them in terms of how they manifest in our own experience, because this is what the great thing about these planetary archetypes is, that everything can arise from them. The deities can arise from them. You can say, well, this deity relates to Saturn, this deity relates to the sun, but so can you also say your personal experience arises from it. So your own little drama can arise from it. Your big dramas can arise from it. There's personal circumstances. So not necessarily even only psychologically, it's less this direct linear connection, but rather that felt sense arising. And this is what we can kind of find a personal cosmological perspective. So if we can focus in first and sit quietly for a moment, I'm going to start talking about them. And we'll first focus on this just idea of the sun, and whatever that means to you, whether it's the picture of the sun itself, the globe in the sky, or just the sun in mythology, or just general fire. So in astrology, often the sun relates to self-expression. It's the archetype of the self in all its different connotations. So we first start to recognize it as it's an archetype of the ego, of the personality, of the charisma, how the world sees us, how we put ourselves out to the world. So the sun is this symbol of our confidence a lot of the times, or lack thereof, or our struggles to express ourselves, this kind of idea. Now, really, the sun is light, and this is the experience of the deeper level of the sun. And in terms of personal circumstance, in terms of how that appears in our life, it sometimes comes up very mysteriously. It comes up very cataclysmically sometimes. It's this true will that arises, or it's the self-expression, meaning like the expression of that inner self arising into the world. This is the drama of the sun playing itself out. And it can also play itself out through this integration of that inner self, or the disintegration, those different moments. Difficult times with this sun. It leads to this vast feelings of nothingness, nihilism, self-negation, and the reintegration from that finding that is the will of the sun. To bring it back to Tarnas for a second, as we meditate on the sun, he talks a lot about the Copernican revolution as this singular epochal shift in human consciousness. If we look at it from those two narratives that are his ideas of how human history works, in the myth of the fall, the Copernican revolution is this moment that truly disengages us from the cosmos. So, whereas once we were the center of the world, now we're now floating in, mechanized, meaningless space. Okay, the sun, Earth is no longer the center. But for Copernicus and for the people that followed soon after him, this is also this incredible moment of spiritual exponential change, and this is this myth of progress as spirituality too. It's an enormous jump in expression of individual consciousness of the, it leads to the enlightened mind of the, modern enlightenment, and this is a great metaphor of the spiritual expression of the sun, the self, also becoming, very much into the world and that expression. But and you also see the difficulty and the greatness of that moment. It's also important in speaking of all the different planets. So the sun is the symbol of, the father as well, of authority, of learning through the father, and those type of relationships. But it's also, these aren't really psychological structures. It's symbols of these different things, okay? These are meanings we can pull from them. But really they're fundamental beings. And they're fundamental to the awareness which exists both inside us, but also manifests in our circumstances and throughout the world itself. And further, all the planets are each a doorway into the unmanifested, the Dharmakaya, the openness and emptiness of primordial awareness itself. The planets are a means of integrating our awareness with the world multidimensionally, first by accessing that intermediate space of the archetypal field. The sun is itself a symbol of this multidimensional doorway. That's what I find most interesting. So the Kayas themselves have archetypal relationships. So there's the sun is like the Dharmakaya of the Sambhogakaya. It's a symbol of the unmanifested as well. You follow what I'm saying? It's the archetype of this unmanifested space. So when something interacts with the sun in a negative way, that unmanifestedness feels much more like void. And when something interacts with it positively, we feel that no thingness in the light of compassion, as light as these different ideas. So this is the sun. And the moon is like its partner, and it's the feminine side of the sun. They work hand in hand. So if the sun is this archetype of unmanifested being, the moon is the archetype of it manifesting, of being creativity, direct perception coming. Briefly about what's happening right now as we're meditating on this. That sun is in the sign Capricorn, which means all this experience of the sun arises more through tradition than it usually does. Capricorn is a sign of ancestors, of the archetypal traditions, too, the different traditions that Rudy began, with the different lineages today. And I thought that resonated especially strongly this morning. Within the Sufis, they call this the Isna, the naming of the trans-historical contemporaries, the naming of the different teachers in the archetypal realm. And so the sun is in Capricorn right now, which gives that field, that aspect, even a stronger resonance this morning. And the moon, which is this essence of the moon, is perception. It's how you experience the world. It's the container of the consciousness. Again, it's the archetype of being manifesting, the feminine side of the sun. It's so in the sense that I said, the sun is the archetype of the unmanifested, the Dharmakaya. The moon is the archetype of the Sambhogakaya of the Sambhogakaya. It's creativity and imagination itself. It's very recognizable. It's that main symbol of the mother, alongside Venus. Both of these are the symbols of the divine feminine, the mother. And the moon shows the past. It shows consciousness as reflection, the field of conception and manifestation. It's our conditioned consciousness. The moon is the direct experience of the world through the mind. On its lower level, it's all the affects, it's the emotions and fantasy. But at its greatest level, the moon becomes pure perception, pure perceptive awareness. It represents the integration of one's mind into the field. Well, this moon today is in a relationship with the eclipse energy, with what's called Rahu and Ketu in the Indian astrological system, which is the system I start from. And these are the subtle, esoteric, psychic energies of the field, and they're Ketu, Rahu at the north node of the moon. These are the points where the Earth's orbit and the moon's orbit can intersect and during eclipses. And they're considered such powerful energetic points. They're like shadow planets. All right, and they kind of affect whatever they're in contact with. They make them much more wild and sensitive. So the north node of Rahu is the wild vibrancy of the world. It's the Shakti. It's the very value-neutral, esoteric energy. It has a lot of very heavy tendencies and a lot of very difficult tendencies. But it's also, it's toxicity. It's the removal of toxicity. It's got a lot of paradox to it. And K2, the south node, which is with the moon this morning, right now, so our experience of direct perception, all this, K2 is this unboundedness. So it opens that field. It makes it so one is overwhelmed at times by unboundedness, someone's perception. And it's almost a scary feeling at first, moon and K2 together. But it also brings what one could describe as like a psychic capacity, or especially in a healing sense. But it makes it so the phenomena of everything is very sensitive, very much overwhelming. So this is the moon that we're sitting in right now. I don't know if anyone can feel that. I don't know if anyone perceives that at all. So let's meditate on that sun and that moon briefly. And I'd ask if anyone has a comment on their experience, or even a question on what I'm saying. But just if anything resonates with you, I guess, feel free.
For myself, when I focused on the moon, I felt the self-arising of this, of the light, in its very softest qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I felt really like this beneficent held state,
Yeah.
but with some depth and breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The moon definitely, there's a softness to the archetype compared to the sun. There's a fieriness to the sun, and there's a softness to the moon. There's a comfort, and there's a harmony that's based on that idea, and also a familiarity. I think because it's everything manifesting. There's the immediate familiarity. There's a nostalgia. There's this sort of idea to it that I think.
Of homecoming.
Yeah, entirely. Yeah, and it's it's an experience of like divinity through nostalgia, through memory, too. All these kind of things arise through the moon. Anyone else? Oh, sure.
The connection for me about this energy this morning came from something that was posted on Facebook last night. So it would have been in this, I guess, introductory piece, which is to be in the presence of I love you as an energy that extends to everyone. And that, as we were working this morning, and as you're talking, it feels to me like that is the moon energy, the great holding of the affection for all life, and opening that container of harmony and affection, and letting go of anything or constricted. You just sit, I'll bring it over.
So I had this experience this morning, a couple of times, where it was those memories of things where I was like, oh, like that feeling of, oh, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I did that. And when you were talking, I was thinking about K2 being connected to the moon, that's probably where it was coming from. Because it's not a normal thing for me to have those regrets of, oh, did I really do that?
There's an uncomfortableness that comes with that combination. Even in passing, even if it's not something, I think you tend to get more comfortable if it's actually part of your chart in general, but if we have that moon K2, there's uncomfortableness with certain memories, with certain just like in a felt way, as opposed to like where you're like, oh, they're kind of yeah. But it's also interesting that it's also interesting. So K2 brings this lack of comfort. It brings so when you see people in K2 cycles or moments of high K2 intensity, there's like a withdrawal. Okay, the lower side of this K2, which is this subtle spiritual energy, the psychic energy of the psyche, it brings withdrawal. It brings depression. It brings isolation. It's an isolating energy. And there's a lack of comfort that goes with that. And so we were talking about this because the moon and K2 are in a relationship right now. But what it also really brings is this capacity for transcendence. So that isolating instinct is like a manifestation of a greater capacity for transcendence or for unboundedness. That's the word that really resonates with K2. And when we've spoken about this before with other people in previous seminars, and some of you have been here, but K2's influence on the sun creates this enormous feeling of self-negation. And the flip side of that, based on one's own self-awareness and the capacity for self-awareness, is that self-negation can turn into this incredibly transcendent experience of emptiness. And that's a hard thing to hold, and it's not something that happens for everyone. Or with the moon, K2, in a sense, negates perception at points. It isolates perception. It makes it hard to get to, or hard to contain everything, I think is a very good way to put it. When one can, then that container is all of a sudden much bigger than your average container. When you're able to hold all that, then you have suddenly so much more energy in the consciousness. So does that make sense? All right. So we're going to focus back inside now and talk about Jupiter. And hopefully this will also be a very strong planet to talk about today. Because Jupiter is also exchanging with the moon, meaning it's in a strong relationship with the moon. Jupiter's in the moon sign Cancer. The moon is in Jupiter's sign Pisces. Okay, and this is a great combination. It's Gajikasari Yoga in the Indian system. It brings expansion and influence and counsel to everyone as it's happening. What is Jupiter? The essence of Jupiter is optimism, is expansion. It's grace and creativity, okay? And the little indications, how does Jupiter relate to your life? Well, it's children or joy or music. Jupiter resonates with principle, philosophy, religion, law, these kind of ideas. The essence is really the guru principle, all right? The guru, Jupiter's knowledge, the unfolding of knowledge and wisdom. This is very different than the intellect, which is Mercury. Jupiter is rather like the eternal intelligence, knowledge that leads to true wisdom. Ultimately, Jupiter leads to compassion. And this is the great aspect of Jupiter, that compassion for the world, true compassion for other people. And this compassion is an experience of the field. And so, Moon and Jupiter together right now, there's a good capacity for these really great aspects of Jupiter to be felt. Let me start by thinking of it that way. So this is the archetype of gurus. How Jupiter is in your chart or in your life is where you find your gurus, your masters, your teachers, counselors. And the most personal expression is then this inner master, the guru principle. The guru dwelling inside you as you. In the Sufism of Ibn Arabi, he follows no earthly master. Those who follow no earthly master are called Uwaisis, the disciples of Qadir, all right? The prayer of Ibn Arabi, the disciple of this mysterious Qadir, is such. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Knowing oneself to know one's God, knowing one's Lord, to know oneself. I think this very much resonates with Jupiter. Let me say it again. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Knowing oneself to know one's God, knowing one's Lord to know oneself. So Corbin calls this the creative prayer that becomes dialogue. Creative because it is at once God's prayer and man's prayer. So this planet Jupiter, well, as all the planets are, but this idea is a path to mutual knowing. The inner invisible guide is the archetypal manifestation. All right? All other guides are its reflections. So also from Corbin's work on even RB, he writes of this mystical recital, the purple archangel. And the poem is itself a participatory act. He says only the literalist, the religionist, would see such things as a parable, as an allegory. So in the purple archangel, a mystic is initiated into a secret that allows him to climb the cosmic mountain, Mount Quaff, and attain the spring of life. Frightened at the difficulty of the task, he turns back, or he considers turning back. But an angel says to him, "Put on the sandals of Kadir." And in so doing, the mystic becomes one with the master through the realm of the archetypal imagination. If you are Kadir, writes Corbin, you too can ascend Mount Quaff without difficulty. So this is what we're talking about. If you are Kadir, this is the true identification with the invisible master. You know, the mystic is now Kadir. He has attained the Kadir of his being. So it's interesting to think of it this way. Jupiter, this planet, as a hidden master, as the inner master, as the guru principle, because it illustrates this multidimensionality of awareness. It relates both to our personal actions in our lives. It's like, who are your masters? Who are your teachers? What is your education like? This kind of circumstance, right? And then to the archetypal master, this inner guru. But further, it's a doorway into the unmediated and the unmanifested, found through that act of mutual knowing. So as we go into the inner guide, this mutual knowing, everything opens up then as a doorway to the Dharmakaya, the unmediated. Does anyone have anything they want to say about Jupiter in terms of that resonance? Sorry, which is? Okay. I'm not sure if I was reading or speaking. Let's say here. I think what I was saying, by looking at it in this light of the hidden master as opposed to just the external master, we can see how it resonates multidimensionally within the Nirmanakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Dharmakaya, because all these archetypes resonate on all these levels. You know, they at some point they become a doorway into that very unmediated, uncolored, just the openness. You know, whether it's the big planets like Jupiter, or even the ones you say, oh, well, Mercury is just the intellect. There's still a doorway into that unmediated experience. And so, speaking about it in terms of Jupiter, well, on a literal level, Jupiter is, or on a personal level, this is our gurus, this is our teachers, this is what we read, that, you know, isn't simply like mentally reading, or just like, you know, wisdom. And then on an archetypal level, it's becomes this inner master, or it can become. That's one way of accessing in the archetypal field. And in doing so, as in this prayer of Ibn Arabi, this act of mutual knowing, that this idea that you're trying to access the inner master is also mutually reflecting that. And in that mutual knowing, we have this doorway into Dharmakai experience, not simply just. Does this make sense? Okay.
Dharmakai is the inner master.
It's the knowing of the inner master. Because the way I guess the way I'm describing is that the inner master is also an archetypal expression. So for instance, with the oases, with the Sufis, they actually give it a name. It's an archetypal figure as well. Mm-hmm. And then from there, the experience of that is the
Dharmakai.
Mm-hmm. But he's like, and most interesting I think is that they almost make him also a person. They make him a person archetype, mm-hmm. and they try to interact with Kadir as actually a person as well. And it's a strange little stories about him. One more thing about him. So there's a surah in the Quran in which Kadir appears alongside Moses as this guy. So I think it's the only time he shows up in the Quran. And he initiates Moses into the science of predestination. So Corbin writes, thus Kadir reveals himself to be the repository of an inspired divine science, superior to the law, Sharia. Thus Kadir is superior to Moses insofar as Moses is a prophet invested with the mission of revealing a Sharia. He reveals Moses precisely the secret mystic truth that transcends this law. So, which I found pretty neat. And there's a lot of talk that if this Kadir exists, he's Elijah, he's a symbol of Elijah, and the impossibility on a literal level of Elijah and Moses, having an interaction is also symbolically supposed to open us into transhistorical time by them even having a relationship in the surah. So that this is kind of a very secret moment and passage. I also found it interesting that it's the science of predestination, which he doesn't really take a look at as a big deal, but I found that as an astrologer, good. Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a strong relationship between that, though. In Ibn Arabi, he has a book called The Orbit of Stars, which he says is a good book if you don't want to, for anyone who doesn't want to have a master, or if you are a master. And that's sort of like, it's very anti-clerical, the whole thing, which I think is pretty fascinating, for especially. The tradition is it's really anti anything but that inner master in this life. So it's neat. Yeah. Sure.
Jupiter, is it the fact that it's with the moon right now, does that bring even more light to Jupiter? Or how do they...
It does. Jupiter, when it's in Cancer, which it has been for a year, since June of last year, is exalted in Cancer. It brings the expansive principle of it. It makes it very strong, the Jupiter, the light of Jupiter. It also makes it a little comfortable. Jupiter, the other side of Jupiter is like sort of it's like the jolly, happy Buddha, and it's also it likes food, it likes drinking. It's so you might, one way, on a personal level, you might notice it, is there is this expansive principle, but it really can get lost when Jupiter's in Cancer by just I was going to go to this retreat, and then I ate so much dinner, or I got drunk, or I got, and that's that because that's another manifestation of it, and it's that can play itself out right now, that, there's a gregariousness to it, and people call it the lesser aspect of Jupiter. I think that's kind of silly and concrete. But it that's part of it as well. But there is a lot of light that comes from Jupiter being in Cancer, and in this passing moment when the moon is in Pisces, it's an expansive point for people raising other people up or something like that, you know? That resonates, but
Oh, totally.
yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
my first house is cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a
Actually found myself, eating and drinking more.
And see more light.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
After going through the Saudi Saturn for 7.5
Mhm.
years, I'm having this like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh-huh.
like, oh gosh, I have to work. I have to clean my house. I have to do it. But I just want to, party.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way to be. Yeah. but in the party is when that relationship is strong, there's wisdom arises through the party too. It's not like, one astrologer way of looking at it would be like, well, it just becomes kind of a wasted energy. But it also arises through that same spectrum is where at the party something happens that is memorable and important and it resonates,
Mystical party.
Exactly, entirely. Well, that's very much what it is, and it's and also an emotional party because Cancer brings the emotions into that wisdom, So that's the Jupiter. The opposite of the Jupiter is Saturn, is contraction, And let's focus on that now. Saturn in November during the retreat with the Lama here that morning when we talked about some of you before. Went into Scorpio and where it will be for the next 2.5 years on November 1st or so. So what is Saturn? Well, traditionally Saturn is this most difficult, the great god of death, significator of death, disease, frustration, separation. It's hard to endure. And then so the power of discipline, asceticism, solitude, limitation. Saturn reveals all life is misery, this kind of idea. But really what it is Saturn is realization through facing reality. And it's great planet, the greatest planet of transformation. Creative destruction. Saturn in Scorpio, where it is now, where it is right now, is intensely creatively destructive. Scorpio brings everything into depth. D-E-P-T-H, not death. It also brings things to death. but the depth is important. And it's this sign of energy, like the passive side of Mars, the fire, the life force, this kind of bottled up, deeply mystical depth. And so when Saturn is in here, this planet of transformation, it brings everything as one becomes with a more mystic orientation, a more depth orientation. Saturn has a lot of power and a lot of strength, and it's easier to deal with, but it forces discipline into this area. This is the Saturn we're living in at the moment. Now, as we focus on Saturn here, and I think this is a very good one to really try to focus on, because in an individual setting, it's easy to talk about the dramas of a lot of these planets. In a group setting, Saturn is the easiest to say, well, wherever you have Saturn, this experience will probably resonate with you, and you don't really need to know where's Saturn in your chart or anything, because this transformative principle, I think, usually resonates with people. It's often quite dramatic. It's what we might call our karma often. This is the karma that I have to go through. It's what creates real self-realization through facing whatever needs to be faced. Saturn's transit of the moon is a 7.5-year cycle that everyone goes through every 30-odd years. Some say, 7, 8 out of the 10 of the people that I see, when they go through this, which is often when they call me, they recognize it very much. And so it's this moments of crises in life that you then have to find a grounding, a way to stand, a way to like perceive what's happening, to deal with the stress of what's happening. And in finding that ground, there's a transformative principle takes place. One finds the discipline, the dharma in terms of the experiential dharma, in terms of what do I need to do for myself, for my own experience, not simply on a moral level, but what's the best thing for my experience. And in doing that, they face whatever the crises are, whether they're existential crises or health crises or, relationship or whatever it is. This is Saturn as this transformative principle, though. It leads to self-realization. And it leads to the will through finding discipline and realization. So let's just focus on Saturn. Does anyone feel anything arising with Saturn in terms of their own personal circumstance or of the archetype?
With a family member, and I feel like Saturn is bringing up the real truth of this situation, which is really difficult to swallow, kind of, like the reality of the truth of the nasty, sort of even the whole picture, the whole big picture of it. And it kind of is like in your face. Like you have to deal with it whether you want to or not. But by doing, and you have no choice about it. You have to engage with it.
That's that feeling, the forced need to kind of face things, and then
Yeah. When
it resonates like that, with that forced need to face something, or like forced need to face reality or deal with something, if we go with that, and especially right now, if we go with it as it relates to that mystery and depth of Scorpio, like getting to the real, kind of, that is transformative, and it actually, you end up feeling better. Even when the situation doesn't necessarily work out better all the time, like the circumstance, you can say, well, that was a difficult circumstance. The actual perception experience changes by going with that. Well, this is what I needed to do, and I did my part versus kind of avoided my part. And that's the sort of Saturnian experience. Yeah. Yeah.
You can sit down. I'll just bring it. Yes, I want your head too.
Along that line of what has already been said, how I've experienced what I think you're talking about is going back to a former significant relationship and owning behavior that I exhibited, and by doing that, transforming it and generating positive energy, and the sense now that it freed me up to engage at a different level in other areas of my life, and that's quite powerful.
That's definitely the case. I mean, I know that whatever aspect of life it really resonates with, it's almost this, going through it, when you look back, it really, there's a shift in everything that follows, and in terms of that transformational quality to it. Saturn right now, today, is also in a very strong relationship with Mars. There's a lot of very odd exchanges occurring at this moment, in terms of, usually you see one or two, and there's three, or at most one or two, and you usually see none. So Saturn is in this relationship with Mars. Mars is in its sign. It's in Mars's sign. This makes it more chaotic, It's and this will be happening for a little bit of time. Mars and Saturn, whenever they're in a relationship, they were in a relationship a lot last year. Maybe 5 months of it or something like that, on and off. Mars is the life force. Mars is the fire in terms of how do we direct ourselves. It's the pure energy, action, independence, and will. So this is sort of like the sun, but the Mars is the more physical side of it, and the sun more like the full being of it. But it's how we act in relationship to time and will. And Saturn, in a sense, is time and will. And so when they're in a relationship with each other, we don't always act that great, basically. It just throws the whole thing. So, like, the classic Mars-Saturn combination in a person is like a person who starts everything but doesn't finish anything. Or, has this amazing creative spark and then just, like, forgets what they're doing, and they, you find, like, a trail of, like, papers behind them, or, they just, like, forgot to put their shoes on, and most people, you can also say that too, and they'll be like, I recognize that in myself, because there is always that some relationship, whether big or small, somewhere. But right now, that's definitely the energy. It takes an extra capacity compared to normal to direct the life force in a way that makes progress. That's, the fire is burning in a way that's sustaining something that makes progress. That's what happens when Mars and Saturn get together. The fire is just burning stuff up for the sake of burning stuff up. Yeah, exactly. So it's like whether it's today we're meditating. I mean, I think there's an enormous amount of power that arises immediately in this period, but it's the sustenance of that is harder than something like that. But it's also it's a powerful combination as well. And as it goes with the kind of life, it definitely creates fits and starts whenever they're together. And I certainly noticed that last year. Just overall, could go heightened level of chaos to the world and to people's heads. Yeah, something like that. Mars relates a lot to people. It's because it is that physical energy, that physical fire, that holding of the physical fire. So if you think about it in terms of yoga, or in terms of athletics, also in terms of medicine, it's a strong relationship there. But the people who are very strong Mars, often are like very into like hatha yoga, very into athletes, and also like surgeons, this type of thing. This is like the very refined form of that physical kind of grace and fire. And Mars is also right now, today, conjunct Venus. So this is interesting. In terms of talking about the dakinis and meditating on this kind of idea. The essence of Venus is this love, eros, love in its many forms, the unfolding of love. When it's with Mars, it's with that fire and life force, and it creates an enormous amount of passion in passing. This is the Mars and Venus together. Venus is the energy, as is the moon, but Venus is much more like the pure light of the mother, the goddess, the feminine, devotion in light, this kind of idea. It's the extension of the field, the archetype of extension. That's what I'd say. And so, as it's a extension of the field, I think it has like a reflection on the non-linear time, or on synchronicity, on the capacity to enter into symbolic understanding. This is the part of Venus, I think, where it relates to the feminine in that capacity, into the entrance into symbolic understanding. Yeah, and also I think through extension, based on that too. It's the same kind of quality.
Fits our workshop today.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's the way. In terms of this language, I think that languaging love is in a new way through that. Is sort of it fits really well. And it's really it's because it is that creative act, and it's the artistic and mystic act in that light.
So that dimension is more available.
Yes, it is. It's very available. And in the same sense that there's this fleeting capacity to hold and sustain.
Mm-hmm.
It's very available when Mars and Venus come together with passion, there's an immediate vibrancy. But again, the sustenance is more difficult. So it's kind of good for this environment, though, because we're not really talking about sustaining something for 5-10 years or for the rest of. We're not talking about a relationship. We're talking about a moment. And so within the moment, Mars and Venus is very strong. That's the idea. Yeah. And we're short on time, so I want to just kind of talk about Mercury before we end with another meditation here. So Mercury is the last of the major planets in the Indian system. We don't look at the outer planets as much. And Mercury is this planet of communication, planet of intellect. It indicates the discrimination, the expression of knowledge, writing, education, conceptual thought, truth determination, discriminating the real from the unreal, this kind of idea. So Mercury is how we process the world, refines what we perceived, okay? And it's also the capacity to hold opposition, capacity to hold paradox. It's language itself. So what I think is interesting in terms of discussing Sufis, we can look at their angelology, which is this angelology that the Sufis, it comes from Avicenna, comes from Zoroaster originally before that, and it's these kind of Platonic forms that arise as angels. And Mercury is the angel of the contemplative intellect, okay? This is the Gabriel of your being, this kind of idea. What's interesting, I think, is that in this mystic Surawardhi, and then also in Ibn Arabi, the intellect, the contemplative intellect, is part of the prophetic tradition. It is an angel. It's a doorway into like mystical experience and spiritual experience. It's not simply, oh, this is just an intellectual process. We're reading a book and that's a limited thing, but rather it's part of the key core of the tradition. And you have to have a philosophical grounding to achieve ecstasy, and also you have to have ecstasy in your philosophical grounding, otherwise it's meaningless.
So your view counts, so to speak. The view helps.
The view helps, but it's also it's integrated, and it's an archetype in itself. And so I think focusing on Mercury in that way like, I think this relates a lot to lineage as well, in terms of what text, this kind of idea, really resonates and changes your capacity for experience. And that starts to enter a very symbolic level. And that's almost like this angel of contemplative intellect, is the capacity to read in a way that reading is a spiritual experience, something like that. So, does anyone else want to talk about any questions or any of these experiences? If not, we'll kind of meditate for the remaining here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. On this Mercury intellect, it sort of helps me sort out a difference between me and my sister. So for me to read something that begins to create the structure and motivation to sustain my life, it's more esoteric, it's more poetic. Whereas my sister has, since the beginning, loved Shakespeare and loved more traditional philosophical, so that the inspiration, this is a very interesting thing to me, because she really has a great sense of spiritual essence, but it's all contextualized out of a different intellectual structure.
And out of literature, yeah.
Out of a literature. So this is a very clarifying concept for me.
Yeah. So you wanted to do meditation.
So we're going to meditate for a little while. We'll probably turn the lights off a bit. And in our little center here, through the various understandings, influence, sometimes we'll walk around and we may just touch you just a little bit in the way of helping extend mutually this awareness we've been focusing on today. So we'll just enter meditation in whatever way we want. We'll sit silently, then I may put that chant we began with again. And we'll do this about 15 minutes. And if it's okay, again, we'll extend to each other. Since Venus is present. We'll also extend to those we know and love who may be having difficulties. We'll also extend to our little city and all the different cities. And then we'll rest in this awareness.
Jai. Pranam Pavan Kumar Lavana Pavak Gyanakan Yasu Hridayaga Asahiram Sarachabha Atulita Baladhamam Himashela Badeham Ranujavan Krishan Yaninam Graganyam Sakalagun Nidhanam Vanaranam Tisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Padajatam Namami Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Vande Nilatmajam Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanrayotamukyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Bolo Bajrang Bali Hanuman Ki Jai. Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Bhajalo ji Hanuman Shri Guru Charan Saroja Raja Nijamano Mokur Sudhar Parana Raghubara Vimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachar Buddhihina Tanu Janike Sumiram Bhavana Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Harahu Kalesha Vikar Bhajiloji Hanuman Bhajiloji Hanuman Bhajiloji Hanuman Bhajiloji Hanuman Jaya Hanuman Jnana Guna Saga Jaya Kapisha Tihun Loka Ujaga Ramaduta Tulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavana Sutanama Mahavira Bikram Bajarangi Kumati Nivara Sumati Kesangi Kanchana Varana Biraja Subesa Karana Kundala Kunchita Kesa Ata Vajra Ora Dvaja Biraje Kande Muja Jane Usaja Shankara Suran Kesari Nandan Teja Pratapa Mahajagabandan Vidyavan Kuniyati Chatu Rama Kaja Karibe Koatu Prabhu Charitra Sunibe Korasiya Rama Lakana Sita Manabasiya Sukshma Rupa Darisiya Hindikava Nikata Rupa Darilanka Jarava Imarupa Dari Asura Sanghare Ramachandra Ke Kaj Savare Vaya Sajivana Lakana Jiaye Shira Kuvera Hara Shivaralaya Raghupati Kinhi Bahota Barai Tumama Priya Bharatai Samabhai Sasabadan Tumaro Jasagavan Asakahi Shripati Kandalagavan Sanekadika Brahmadi Murisa Narada Sharada Sahita Hisa Makubera Digapala Jahante Kabi Korida Kaesa Ke Kahante Maupakara Sugriva Inkina Rama Milaya Raja Padadina Tumaro Mantra Bibhishana Mana Lankeshwara Bhaisa Bhajagadana Gasahasta Jojana Parabanu Ilyotahi Madura Paladana Prabhu Mudrika Mili Mukamahi Jaladilangi Gaye Achara Janahi Durgama Kaja Jagata Kechete Sukamanugraha Tumarete Amaduare Tumarakovare Otanagya Mino Pesare Sabasukalahi Tumari Sharana Tumarachaka Kahu Kodarala Apana Teja Samaro Ape Dino Loka Hangatengambe Uta Pisachani Gatana Hinave Mahavira Japanam Sunave Naserod Hare Sabapira Japatan Nirantara Hanumatavira Sankatate Hanumana Churave Manakrama Bachana Dhyana Jolave Sabapara Tapasvi Raja Dinake Kaja Sakala Tumasaja Or Manorat Joko Ilari Soy Amita Jivana Palapave Charon Juga Paratapa Tuma संत के तुम्हारा कवाड़े असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास सदा रहो रघुपति के दास तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाई जहान जन्म हरे भात कहाय और देवता चेतन धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संखत खते मिथे सब पीरा जो सुमेरे हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करौ गुरुदेव की नाई जो सत बार पात कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होय जो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा होया सिद्धि की गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा जयनाथ हृदय मंदिर पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसौ सुरभूप सियावर रामचंद्र पद जय शरणम मंगलमूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मूर्ति खंडन मंगलमूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मूर्ति खंडन श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम Ram Jai Jai Ram.
So, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. We can rub our hands together and place them on our heart and seal the experience that it can be sustained and maintained. And also, just a few announcements. Pretty much once a month, every Sunday, we're going to try and have these little seminars. And also, we have a lot of programs during the week. Many of them are on the internet. And since 2002, we've been broadcasting to people we know. But we decided to finally open the doors a little bit. And we're just broadcasting in a public sort of way to everyone. Doesn't cost you anything. And so every morning there's meditations. You just press the little button, if it works, and it'll come on. And programs on Saturday to the Dakini and also other seminars we have here. So, and it's a new spot and should be a lot of fun, hopefully. So, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again. Really enjoyed today, and it feels like the planets were set for it.
Shri Ram Jai
Seminars are on the archive website.
Jaya Bhagavan Jaya Bhagavan Jaya Bhagavan